No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to discuss the Winnipeg Jets' 4-1 victory over the Montreal Canadiens, starting their first of 5 in a row against Eastern Conference opponents with a victory in a place where Winnipeg Jets teams historically have not had a lot of success. Here's some fun with numbers to start tonight's post-game show. This all courtesy of our good friend Connor Harabchuk. The Jets and the Canadiens last played December 14th, so about 6 or so weeks ago. Since that game, a game the Jets won 4-2, the Habs have been 13-4-2. The best team in the Eastern Conference and the best team in the NHL by points percentage in that time frame. Winnipeg Jets, since December 4th, entering tonight's game, 16-6-3, second best in the NHL over that time. So a matchup tonight of two teams that have been playing good hockey for much of the past 6 weeks, 8 weeks. The Winnipeg Jets, after a slow start to the game, though, affirmed themselves as a better team than the Montreal Canadiens, taking over in that second period on their way to the 4-1 victory. Gentlemen, good to see you both on this Tuesday night.
Salut, mes amis. Yes, it was an excellent second period. You're right. Maybe one of the most dominant periods we've seen. And you're right, Drew. I mean, they overcame a pretty porous first period, I would say. They weren't managing the puck well, turning the puck over. The Habs could have easily had another couple goals. And, you know, the Jets made their adjustments. And look, hockey is a possession game. And that's what the Jets did in that second period. You saw the fourth line have shift after shift. And obviously, you know, guys, the Scheifele line comes through big. And that back-breaking goal by Kyle Connor late with originally it looked like it was 0.5 seconds left, Dave, but
yeah,
then they added a second on. But that's just like, that's the proverbial backbreaker, right? Like, it doesn't matter who is scoring, what team you're playing against. You know, they were hoping to only get out of that period down a goal. And so Connor and Scheifele continue their hot play, along with Vilardi, who's, what does he have, 6 points now in his last 2 games? Not bad for Vilardi either. And look, Hellebuck, you know, he didn't have the busiest night, but like, even like guys in that third period, remember Josh Anderson had that breakaway, and he ends up missing the net. But Hellebuck, I would argue, forced him to miss the net with how he played that breakaway, right? So Dave, Hellebuck wasn't, you know, otherworldly like he has been so much this season, but he was just, you know, his normal excellent self. So, you know, a big win for the Jets. As Drew mentioned, they kick off the Eastern swing with a big win here. And like we said, I mean, the Jets could have found themselves down 3 goals in that first period, and then it's a whole different game. That Lane Hudson, guys, I'll remind everyone, he was drafted 62nd overall in the 2022 draft. That's the year the Jets took McGroarty, obviously. So, I mean, 61 teams, or obviously not 61 teams, but he could have been taken by 31 other teams. Sorry, 31, 32 teams in that first round. So yeah. Lane Hudson proving to be an absolute steal of the 2022 draft, because, Dave, he's emerging as a top 10 defenseman in the league, and he's only 20.
No, I mean, there's no question that Montreal Canadian fans have a lot to be thankful for with their team, and you can see that the future is bright for Montreal. And as you're right, the Jets overcame a slow start. One of the things that we talked about on the last show, but also just in general, is the fact that this Jets team, and I asked the question, and I don't know the answer. I didn't actually do the research, so I didn't find the answer out, boys. But you know, they held Calgary to 3 shots in one of the periods last game. And I was curious if they had done that previously. I'm sure they had, but I wasn't certain. Well, we know that they've done it 2 games in a row now because they held Montreal to just 3 shots. And that is 13 straight games now that they've suppressed their opponent from shooting less than 30 shots. I think they gave up 25 to Montreal this evening. So
Yes.
one of those
and the shot, sorry, Dave, just to cut in here and just to add to what you're saying here, the Habs had a 10-2 shot lead halfway through the first period.
Well,
so
that's what
the Jets really shut it down in the second and third periods.
Absolutely. I mean, and this third was a bit of a slog. I mean, it wasn't, 7 shots were 7-4. It wasn't exactly riveting, but at the end of the day, that to me is one of those elements that we tend not to talk about with this Jets club so much because we focus on the offense with good reason. We focus on the power play with good reason, but limiting the opportunities for your opponent is significant. And playing good D, again, one of the hallmarks that Scott Arniel has really, focused his attention on. And of course, I should say Rick Bowness did as well, but getting these guys to play a bit tighter defensively. And as he's right, Connor Hellebuck still had to be Connor Hellebuck in that first period because there were some momentary lapses where these guys gave up opportunities. We may have to talk to Hayden Fleury about whatever weird sort of pirouette thing he chose to do on that Josh Anderson.
Yeah.
Because he turned one way, then he tried to turn the other way, and it ended up being like a triple sow cow or something. I'm not certain what he did.
Sow cow. Wow.
My mom enjoyed figure skating, so I picked up a few things.
Well,
but
I see there's 3 Lutzes on the screen right now, but I don't know about that.
I'd be more like Will Ferrell in what was that movie he was in? With the guy
Blades
from
of Steel.
Blades of Steel, yeah, I'd be more like that than
Blades of Steel. That
no,
was the
Blades
video
of Steel's
game.
the video game.
Blades of Glory.
Blades of Glory.
Thank you. I knew Blades of Steel didn't sound right. Blades of Steel was a classic Nintendo hockey game, though.
Excellent. Yeah. Although they didn't have Winnipeg, which always pissed me off. I always had to play.
I remember when I got that, my late grandmother got me Blades of Steel for the original Nintendo. I was the happiest kid. I used to play that game.
Yeah,
so much. Yeah,
that was a great game that we used to play it out at Winnipeg Beach many years. So, anyways, I thought
the past. Remember that, Dave? It's the past.
and then the fights and the fighting
and the fighting. The fighting would just be too.
Because the fighting was actually pretty for I want to say, what was that, like 90? That was sometime in the 90s.
No, I bet it was 87, 88.
Was it? Oh, yeah, that makes more sense.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. It would be late 80s.
Just turned 30 then.
Yeah. Good call, Ez.
I got it from my kids back then for their Nintendo system.
And the one other thing I see ice hockey was good too, C-Mac, but it wasn't as good as Blades of Steel. I won't.
Well, Ice Mac had the skinny guy, the medium guy, and the fat guy.
I'm with C-Mac. I think ice hockey.
Ice hockey was Ice hockey was good, and the slap shot was good on ice hockey, but Blades of Steel was still classic. Anyways. The other thing that needs to be highlighted, Ezzy, and of course, I know you'll be all over this one, is just the play of the Gus Bus and the fourth line in general. I thought Morgan Barron was excellent, and he made a lot of good plays. And I'm not going to say Dan Robertson was showing his Eastern bias by highlighting Morgan Barron, but
I'm pretty sure he unalived Kirby Doc.
Kirby Doc is still stuck on the boards with that massive hit that he leveled on him.
Period.
That was, yeah.
No, but I just, again, David Gustafson's a guy who, we've been, we've known, obviously we've covered him for some time. And it was a big play, a big kind of continuation of good play from him that period looked like it over, right? Kyle Connor kind of airmailed it and Gustafson just didn't stop until the final whistle. And the Jets had that important 2-goal lead because of it. So I just like the way he's been playing. And I think, Drew, maybe you said it, like, he looks like a guy who's playing like, I'm not coming out of the lineup. And it's funny because look, as the Jets lost their captain 4 games ago, and no shot to Adam Lowry, but they're not showing that he's a passenger right now on the plane. But they're not missing him, and obviously they're missing him. You know what I mean? But just they've shown that they aren't going to miss a beat with him currently healing, and that, Drew, to our point from the last show, means they don't have to rush him back. They can let him heal and wait till after the 4 Nations in that game against the Blues on the 22nd.
Yeah, this is sort of it was a bit of a weird game in that, usually when if you look at the numbers, you look at the advanced metrics in this game, the Jets get caved in for 2 of the 3 periods. And you're thinking, okay, well, in order for them to have won that game, it had to have been a Connor Hellebuck special. And he certainly was important for the Jets in the first period. But I think that third period where the possession numbers were 77% to 23%, it seemed like the Jets were content at just keeping their game absolutely as simple as it could be. I bet they had more icings in that third period than almost any other period so far this season. The Jets really just seem to have a focus of keep it to the outside, Doesn't matter if Montreal is going to, possess the puck. Now, there were certainly some scary moments there with Josh Anderson and the breakaway and the crossbar that was hit. And Connor Hellebuyck sort of came up big with a couple of saves in that third period.
Well, there was that. Sorry, Drew. There was the turnover, and when Nick Suzuki had that chance in front of the net, Nick Suzuki, I thought, had at least 3 shots in that third period. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the Jets were clearly willing to give the Habs the blue line. They were willing to give those long shots up and take care of front business. I thought Samberg and Pionk were huge tonight. I haven't checked their advanced stats anymore. Probably they're going to make me look bad, but I thought Samberg, there was a play with like 3 or 4 minutes left where the Caulfield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky line was out there, and it could have been dangerous. And Samberg was just in position, and he knocked the puck away out of harm's way. And I just thought his game was just like what you expect from Samberg. He's just consistent, dependable, and Pionk as well. I really liked his game tonight. And for the most part, I mean, the Jets, they only had really one dominant period, but sometimes when the period is that dominant, that's good enough to win the game, right? So, and Montreal was on their heels.
He muted himself, folks. He hit the button and muted himself.
I actually didn't hit anything there, so I'm not sure what happened there. But regardless, it wasn't a dominant win for the Jets. And
but
sometimes you get that
road win.
Exactly. And they were disciplined. They didn't take any penalties. And by the way, nobody should be surprised the Habs took 3 penalties. I checked before the game started. They were the 6th most penalized team in the league. No surprise with guys like Arbor Jacki and David Savard and some other guys. But even though the Jets don't score in the power play, which is something we don't say very often, Drew, right? Yeah. They got it done at 5-on-5. And again, Scheifele's line took over that second period. And they hung on, and they ended up, not letting anything in the third period, got the empty netter, and it's on to Boston.
It was Montreal. I would just point out, Drew, quickly, Montreal does have a good PK. I think they've got the 9th best PK in the NHL. So their PK
is that the most passive PK we've seen this year?
Yeah,
I mean, Montreal's PK is not aggressive.
No, that's a fair point. As it was almost like it confused the Jets because everybody has attacked the Jets and tried to really pressure them. And you're right, as it seemed like Montreal was content to not. But they were effective, I guess. I mean, not to say the Jets didn't have some good chances. They did. Gabriel Velarde had that one opportunity where he gets the puck quickly in front and puts it wide. And normally he's been putting that right in the back of the net. So there were definitely some chances to score. They just were, as my Uncle Sammy would have said, just failed to click.
Yeah, it was sort of a bit of a weird game, but an effective game. I just thought the Jets were the more just the more professional of the two teams. And that's not to say that Montreal doesn't have a bright future or anything like that. They do. But the Jets just, I thought, look, Montreal has been playing some great hockey as of late over the past 6 weeks, as I mentioned at the start of the show. And they've become a great story this year when it certainly looked like for the first 2.5 months of this season, it was going to be another lost year in Montreal, and they've brought themselves. They're certainly in the fight for the playoffs in the Eastern Conference and in the Atlantic Division, which, by the way, is pretty lousy outside of Toronto and Florida. So Montreal's a perfectly fine Eastern Conference team. But I thought the Jets were just, okay, yeah, you guys started well, but we're going to take over this game, and then we're going to show you what a really good team looks like. And Montreal's not at that level just yet. No. Maybe one day they'll get there. The fact that they're, within spitting distance, within, a point or two of the playoffs is great fun. And the NHL is a better place when I think the Montreal Canadiens are celebrating, and Montreal is a playoff city, but they're not quite at the Jets level just yet. They're not one of the pinnacle teams in the NHL, and the Jets, I think, sort of reminded them of that, particularly in that second period, and that was all it took for the Jets to take over this game.
Absolutely, and hopefully Caden Gooley's okay, by the way, because that looked
bad.
That looked bad, and he's a guy that's had a lot of injuries in the past. But you're right, Drew. Look, whether or not the Canadiens make the playoffs this year, and I personally am pulling for them, just because I think anytime the Canadiens are in the playoffs, it's fun. And it's fun, exactly. They're obviously the most storied team in the league, and I've said it again. Some people don't care about this, but always like when the max amount of Canadian teams are in there. So there's hopefully 4 or 5 teams in the playoffs this year coming from Canada, right? I'm sure Trump would love that. No, I'm just kidding, guys. But obviously, there's a lot of talent on this team. Juraj Slafkovsky, you got to remind yourself that he's only 21 years old. He's only going to get better. Lane Hudson's only 20 years old. It's not like Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield are old players by any stretch of the imagination either, right? So, yeah, I mean, look, when you say impose your will, a team imposing their will, that's a cliche in hockey, but that's what the Jets did in that second period. And, you love to see these new look like, again, like I would say, like, talking about the depth pieces like Rasmus Kupari, Mason Appleton, Nino Niederreiter, they don't get on the board, Dave, tonight. But I thought that line was noticeable. Just having, extended shifts in the Hab zone in that second period, using their physicality. Obviously, Rasmus Kupari did get on the board, but what I meant was,
I know you meant as a collective line.
As a collective line, he got the empty netter, but you know what I mean, right? But that's what. That was the hallmark of the Jets when they started the season 15-1. What was it? It was obviously great goaltending, but it was great defense, starting with great team defense, but you were getting contributions from all the lines, right? And that's what you're starting to get. When David Gustafsson is kicking in an assist to Kyle Connor late in the second period, that's when the Jets are at their best. But we saw the stat come out, guys. Now, after this game, when Kyle Connor scores a goal, the Jets are 20-2. Like, that is absurd. That is absolutely absurd. So again, this seemed like a very much like a, just another Jets victory. But they had to work for this one.
20-2, but it's funny though, when he doesn't score, they're still 14-12. So it's not like it's feast or famine. It's feast or well-rounded meal, let's say.
Well, just a couple of things, final thoughts, and then we can get into the recap if you want. But I don't know if did you read Connor's, you didn't say what about the Jets start versus the middle and then now, or no, you didn't do that one, did you, Drew?
Talking like, yes, I did. I mentioned that was part of my intro.
No, but you talked about, you weren't talking about that one.
15-1, then 19. I didn't say the 19-13-3 part.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was going to say. But you didn't actually mention the fact. I'm just saying, like, it is remarkable, though, because when people say, oh, the Jets have been mediocre, it's interesting, right? When you parse it and when you look through it. But the other thing I was going to mention, though, and I think
they were mediocre, like on that road trip. That 6-game road trip is when they were mediocre.
No, for sure. And they played some bad games at home too, right? I mean, it wasn't like it's not always sunshine and lollipops. You can't look, you're not going to be able to be like when you are 15-1-0 and you're historic, your only way to go is down after that. Now they've fought back up. And again, they're the number one team and the Capitals are playing, I believe, the Flames right now. And they were up 1-0. Pierre-Luc Dubois, by the way, had a goal. So it looks like the
Dave,
Jets.
You missed it. You were late to Drew and I were talking about this 5 minutes before we went live.
I know, but I'm saying that. Okay, fine. But the folks in the chat hadn't. But what I was going to say is it's continuing to be that the Jets and Capitals on Saturday night will be that battle for first overall. But the other thing I was going to say, and I think it's hilarious, is the Boo Birds still being out for Mark Scheifele. I mean, the fact that Montreal, and that's fine. It's something it's a little unusual because, Jets fans have their hate on. We're used to that, of course, when we're inside the building. We listen, when we'll hear like, insert player's name and you'll hear like they Jets fans hate them. I mean, you guys, Corey Perry is a perfect example.
I was going to say Corey Perry. Yeah.
Corey Perry is like the quintessential example of guys that opposing player that Jets fans hate and will boo incessantly. Even Pierre-Luc Dubois, when he came back to Winnipeg, was someone that got booed pretty relentlessly. But I just think it's funny because we're not used to hearing Jets being the target of that sort of ire, and to hear Mark Scheifele getting booed every time he touched the puck.
Well, he not only was he getting booed when he was touching the puck, Dave, he was getting booed as he scored the goal. That was great. Obviously, it wasn't bothering him, right?
No. I was going to say, I suspect those boo birds, as I tweeted, are music to his ears. And then it was funny how he and Jake Evans, after Evans shot that puck after a whistle, and then they kind of came together, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder how fans are going to react to that one. But anyways, it's just a side entertaining thing, I think, is part of the game.
I agree with you. It's unusual for the Jets. The Jets don't seem to draw the ire of opposing fans all that often, except for Mark Scheifele in Montreal. And I'm sure that as a result, his performance and the victory sounds all the more sweet when you're getting the jeers from the crowd overwhelmingly throughout the game. Let's get into the goal-by-goal recap here on the Illegal Curve post-game show.
The Play Now game recap.
guess the reason for people wondering, it goes back as to why Scheifele was getting booed. I see Dave, you mentioned in the chat. It goes back to the playoff series, the bubble playoff, not the bubble series, the no fans in the stands series between the Jets and the Habs during the All Canadian division, when Scheifele laid out the Jake Evans with that hit at the end of the game. That's where all the animosity stems from. For those who may not be aware,
Was that 4 years ago now?
Yeah, I guess so. That would be a long
Like,
time ago
you
now.
haven't
Right?
moved on from that, Montreal?
Well, they haven't been in the playoffs since then, I don't think. You know, they need something to hold on to. In any event, the Play Now game recap is, of course, brought to you by our friends at Play Now. Sign up for Play Now and get a casino welcome bonus up to $150. Play Now is Manitoba's local, legal, and secure gambling site and the official betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets. Conditions apply. 18 plus. Enjoy responsibly.
I remember.
Yes.
Je me souviens.
Je me souviens.
Oh, okay. Yes, there you go. Slow start for the Winnipeg Jets, as we talked about to start this game. The Habs well in control for the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the game. The Jets on their heels. Montreal's speed looked like it was something that the Jets were having trouble with. As a result, Montreal gets the opening goal. Slafkovsky gets his 8th of the season. Assist to Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. The Jets just get caught running around in their own zone. Clean zone entry by the Habs. They move the puck around. Jets just are losing track. Slafkovsky is just sitting there by himself. Nobody on him. A very easy pass from Nick Suzuki behind the net to Slafkovsky in the middle of the slot. He makes no mistake wiring it past Connor Hellebuck. Just breakdowns galore for the Winnipeg Jets in a first period that contained a fair number of breakdowns.
Yeah, and before everybody starts to get on Logan Stanley here, because obviously he's on the ice with Hayden Fleury, like, to me, this was not Logan Stanley's fault. Like, he's in a position where, yeah, maybe, he's not doing enough. He's kind of watching, but the reality is he's got a player behind the net to worry about. Plus, he's got Slafkovsky in front, right? So Nick Suzuki's the one who passes the puck to Slafkovsky out front, but nobody's on Slafkovsky. And to me, like, Cole Perfetti is the right winger on this line. It's the Nemesnikov, Ehlers, Perfetti line out there, and Perfetti's on the other side of the ice, right? So, like, that's what I'm saying here. Like, I don't think you can just isolate it. Like, they had some good pressure. Montreal did, obviously. But I just thought, I if there's one thing that I would say, again, I'm not a hockey coach. I work at Hockey Manitoba, but I'm not a hockey coach, so I'm not going to pretend like I know more than Scott O'Neill and the coaching staff. But we've been doing, 51 of these post-game shows this year. If there's one thing that I would say that the biggest issue that the Jets do have is sometimes in the defensive zone, you see them too loaded to a side, and they sometimes get a little bit lost. And again, credit to the Montreal Canadiens. This is a solid top line with Caulfield, Suzuki, and Slafkovsky. But we've seen this type of play, Dave, before, where the Jets kind of get a little bit mesmerized and get out of position, and they're too loaded to one side. And in this case, like, again, I'd have to watch the 20 seconds leading up to the goal really to have more of a. Well, I don't even know if it's 20 seconds, but what I saw is that the Jets just didn't have anybody on that side of the ice to cover Slafkovsky. And it was more so that, Drew, than Logan Stanley's fault on that goal, because he was in front of the net, but really he either goes behind the net and takes Suzuki and leaves Slafkovsky open, or so it was just poor defensive coverage.
You go to NHL.com, Dave, and you watch the goal visualizer, which I love watching. I think that's a great addition, by the way.
It is good. I agree.
NHL.com, and you can see.
By the way, speaking of ice hockey, that kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah. Same graphics.
The Jets have 4 guys overloaded on that side. To Ezzy's point, there's 4 guys who are keeping an eye on Cole Caulfield, which is great, except for the fact that the puck is back to Nick Suzuki at that point in time, so that the ice is definitely tilted too far to one side. Yeah, they're not north-south, but east-west in this instance.
No, I mean, they're just like, Logan Stanley puts himself into a no man's land, so that's not good. But more importantly, I mean, obviously he's trying to protect the front of the net, but the issue is that, like, he can't leave Suzuki behind the net alone. So you need a winger there to be the high man, and there's nobody on that side.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the problem, is that, as he said, everybody overcommits to the one side, which is well and good. But if you don't come up with the puck, it's similar to being on it's like a power play. I mean, you've now got the man advantage. The Montreal, I should say, has the man advantage, and they're able to bury that. So yeah, I mean, it. The funniest part is and again, I know there's narratives out there and stuff like that, and we're not here to cheer players on, and we're not here to pillory certain players. But the fact of the matter is that oftentimes, while one guy can look bad on a play and you want to isolate him for the mistakes that are made,
Right.
this is one of those plays where it's not just on Logan Stanley. Again, like I said, could he have played it a little bit better? Yeah, but so could four other guys on the ice who didn't play. Well, I should say four. I thought Ehlers was well positioned, but either Nemesnikov or Perfetti needed to be covering the winger, and they weren't.
And Perfetti's the right winger. And the reason why I say that is because Slafkovsky is to the right of Connor Hellebuck. So if you watch the replay, which I just did, Cole Perfetti just kind of goes for a skate, and he's on the side that Caulfield's on, right?
Exactly.
So again, I'm not going to pretend to be a coach and say if it's that simple, but regardless, it had to be either the center, Nemesnikov, or Perfetti there providing support. Because like you said, Dave, if Logan Stanley chases Suzuki behind the net, then Slafkovsky's open. But if he leaves Suzuki behind the net, Suzuki can wrap the puck around unaccosted, right? So again, however you want to break it down, it was bad 5-man defensive coverage by the Jets there, and Hellebuck really is not at fault at all here.
He is not. So, but to the Jets' credit, after a really lousy start to this game, they begin to, get their feet under them. They begin to shake off the doldrums and the cobwebs, and they tie it up 4 minutes and 33 seconds later. And it's amazing, how quick strike this team can be at times after being so mediocre at best for the majority of the first period, for the first 15 minutes of that first period. All of a sudden, which has got to be a little demoralizing for the Montreal Canadiens, the game is tied up at 1 goal apiece. Kyle Connor gets his 28th assist to Gabe Vilardi and Dylan DeMello. It starts with a good zone entry by the Winnipeg Jets. And truthfully, Mark Scheifele's probably a little too cute on this play. He's trying to feed it in to Kyle Connor in tight when there really wouldn't be, I think, there wasn't really the opportunity to do so. In any event, the puck gets put into the corner where Scheifele goes and retrieves it. And he's got Nick Suzuki sort of trailing him. He bodies out Nick Suzuki. He shields Nick Suzuki, gets it back to Dylan DeMello. DeMello gets the shot through from the point. Gabe Vilardi is in front on Alex Carrier. There's a size mismatch there. And then after it goes off of Vilardi, Kyle Connor picks up the rebound. Mike Matheson in the chase position for the Habs. And Connor doesn't miss from that opportunity. It's a pretty good scoring chance and a pretty good opportunity. He capitalizes on those more often than not, Dave. And it's 1-1 by a simple sort of play in that, Dylan DeMello gets that shot through, then the Jets are able to have body position on the Habs and take advantage.
Yeah, I mean, look, similar to Gabriel Vilardi getting in tight as Kyle Connor is not a guy, as we saw on the goal against the Flames, which was a highlight reel goal. I mean, you just cannot give him any time and space, really. It's amazing. He's like a wizard with the puck. And so when he gets that kind of opportunity, he takes advantage of it more times than not. And it's the reason why he's produced, so much for the, when you look at the 2015 draft, I think he's top 4 in terms of production, even though he wasn't drafted he was drafted in the teens. But regardless of that, I mean, his hands are phenomenal. And like I said, you give him time and space and he sniffs out an opportunity and he can take advantage of it. So here's another instance where he just sees that, goes for, takes the puck and Monbo has no chance on that really, because he's already down. And so Connor scores, he gets his 28th goal of the season, or 28th goal of the season. No, that was his 28th. Right. The next one was his 29th.
Oh, right. So, right.
So he's got 28. He's on pace for 100. And it's just, and Drew, it's a good play. Dylan DeMello.
I mean, not 100 goals for the record.
I never said 100
I know,
goals.
but you said 20. You're talking about his 28th goal, his 29th goal, and then you go, he's on pace for 100. I just wanted to make sure. I'm just teasing you. It wasn't.
That would be a hell of a second half of the season if Connor ended up with 100 goals.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm wow, he'd be torching the team for like 4 goals a game, for God's sakes.
That's what I'm saying.
Which is why I thought why I thought it was pretty obvious that I was saying he was getting.
I know what you were saying. I know everybody knows what you're saying.
Drew. Drew and I have spent too much time together.
The gears a little bit.
I love the fact that I just love the work that Velarde does on this goal. Obviously, good on Connor for being Johnny on the spot and jumping on the rebound. And Drew mentioned Scheifele earlier. Scheifele does a good job of off the rush initially and then shielding the puck and kind of pushing the Canadiens defenders back. But Velarde is battling in front of Carrier, and Drew's right. Like, that's the thing with Velarde is he's not just a big guy. He's not like a pylon in front of the net. Like, he's big and he can out muscle opposing teams' defensemen, but he also has the hands. And I thought he just did a clever, like, he kind of just like pokes it to Connor here, right? Like, he's just having a great year. Like, he's just fun to watch this year because, like you said, Dave, he was, I think, 11th or 12th overall, right? And he just couldn't stay healthy, and he just couldn't find the right mix for whatever reason. I couldn't put it all together, I should say, in LA, right? And he's putting it all together because by the time this season is over, he's going to completely smash. What is he, only 1 or 2 goals away from his career high, right? He's going to smash that.
Yeah, his career high was 23. He's got 22, and he's already set his career high for points. So if he stays healthy, he easily hits 30 and probably gets close to 35. Yeah, that seems not unreasonable. And he's got how many assists does he have? I think he's got
27.
Okay, 27.
Yeah.
That's close. I said 28, 27, but
28. I mean, this line, guys, again, I know we do a post-game show after every Jets game, and we talk about it a lot on the Saturday show, but this line, I mean, what more can you really ask out of this line? I mean, they've had their odd bad game, but I mean, it's been few and far between. Like, the way they're playing like this.
By the way, did you know that
stats don't lie?
Ezzy, do you know Illegal Curve is huge in Cancun?
Love it.
I'm not surprised.
Well, we're huge in Cancun when DL14 is in Cancun listening to Illegal Curve.
Well, that's good. We appreciate that. Wherever you might be tuning in tonight for the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Have a cerveza for us.
There you go. Drew Mandel. Yeah. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg with you on this Tuesday night talking about the Jets' 4-1 victory over the Montreal Canadiens. If you haven't already done so, or if you're new to the channel, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast. That way you won't miss any episode of Illegal Curve Hockey. Next in action, of course, Thursday night for that Jets-Bruins rematch. Go ahead, Dave.
And make sure your notification bell is turned on. And normally, if we were real professional, we'd have that little bing bing sound, but we don't have that. But make sure you turn your notifications on, because I was checking the analytics. Not a lot of you have notifications on. How do you know when we're going live? How do you know when we've got new videos posted?
Because we're pretty consistent after every game at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. But you
I tweeted about 10,000 times in a day, and I have it all over illegalcurve.com and everywhere else. But regardless, make sure your notifications are on.
Hey, boys, can I mention something here? I forgot to mention this to you. I was going to text you guys, but I might as well just.
Oh boy.
What does that mean? Is this an inside thought?
No, it's not an inside thought, but DL14 listening to us live from Cancun, Mexico just made me think of this. I was at a kid's birthday party on Sunday at the Golf Dome, and I forgot to mention this. I have to give a shout out to Todd. He came up to me. He saw that I was wearing the Illegal Curve toque. I was playing mini golf with my son there, and he came over and said that he's been listening to the show with his wife for many, many years. But this is the funny part. So shout out to Todd for being a loyal IC viewer / podcast listener. But the funniest thing is the comment that he made to me. He said, I ran into Dave a few years back, and I didn't realize how thick he was. He's in really good shape.
What's up?
Well, Todd, you need glasses. I can tell you that much.
I thought Dave would like that.
I hope Todd doesn't have cataracts or something like that. But I appreciate the shout out, Todd.
No, he was impressed. Obviously, Dave Lamb was looking buff.
I was lifting back then.
Yeah, you were lifting something all right. 1-1 after 20
let me
minutes.
drink my Pepsi Max as a result.
Yeah, between the Jets and the Montreal Canadiens. And then the second period begins. And the Jets just absolutely dominate that second period, as we've talked about. Shots on goal in the second period, 13-3.
Yeah.
It was as one-sided as it seemed to have been. And the Winnipeg Jets, here's the difference between the Jets and the Habs. In a first period that the Montreal Canadiens, by and large, controlled, After 20 minutes, it ended up at 1-1. After a second period that the Winnipeg Jets controlled thoroughly, it ends up at 3-1 after 40 minutes. That's sort of just the difference between an okay team and a damn good hockey team, and that's what the Winnipeg Jets are. Well, they take the 2-1 lead at the 10:44 mark of that second period. Mark Scheifele, the Boo Birds raining down. They were raining down even louder then. After he gets his 29th of the year, assist to Gabe Vilardi and assist to Josh Morrissey. It starts with a clean faceoff win by Mark Scheifele. The puck goes back to Morrissey. Morrissey sends it in deep to Gabe Vilardi. Vilardi's got Matheson on him. Scheifele finds a soft spot behind Alexander Carrier, and Vilardi puts it right on his stick, and he fires it past Samuel Montembeault to give the Jets the 2-1 lead. Just like the Jets have done so many times this year. They send it in deep. They put it back up the low to high play, and Mark Scheifele, Gabe Vilardi, Kyle Connor, Nikolai Ehlers, whomever it may be, are so adept at finding that soft ice and getting that puck on and off their stick in the blink of an eye, and that's what made it 2-1 for the Jets, Ezzy.
Yeah, and this comes not too long after they win a faceoff, and like what I thought here is like Scheifele kind of just like Carrier just kind of loses him, and Scheifele kind of just sees that Carrier's got his back to him. And again, when we point out kind of the Jets' poor defensive play, we have to point out the opposition's poor defensive play. And to me, like, first off, it's a beautiful pass by Gabe Vilardi. And again, I don't get tired of talking about Gabe Vilardi and how great of a season he's having. He deserves to be talked about a lot. So it's a great pass by Gabe Vilardi from behind the net. But Carrier just loses Scheifele. Like, Scheifele just sees, okay, Vilardi's got the puck. I'm going to go to the net. And he goes to the net, and Carrier he doesn't get in front of him. He doesn't get a stick on him. So it's just a combination of a nice pass from behind the net by Vilardi and Carrier just losing Scheifele, Dave. Like, that's what I saw in this goal.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And it's funny because, to the point that I believe you made maybe on the Saturday show, just in terms of how many goals Mark Scheifele has scored since the snub. I mean, he's got 29 goals. It's amazing, right? He's got the second most goals or he's tied with, obviously he's tied with Kyle Connor, but he's got the second most goals in the NHL. It really is remarkable what we're seeing from Mark Scheifele this season. And of course the Jets need him.
Maybe Scheifele can replace Pietrangelo on defense.
Well, there were a lot of guys that were offering to figure out what they needed to do. I think it was Seth.
It's got to be Mackenzie Weegar, no?
I think they're holding out hope for Drew Doughty.
Well, the funny part was that Seth Jarvis, as they were interviewing him, he's like, I'll play right D if I need to and go there. And
obviously Chris Tanev is an option. Like, what the guy that I'm surprised more people aren't talking about is Aaron Ekblad. But again.
Yeah. All right. What is this? Panthers lunch? Although speaking of Panthers, Sam Reinhart.
It's Four Nations Cup lunch, apparently.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so Scheifele ties Sam Reinhart for second most goals. We'll get into Kyle Connor joining the party when Drew starts talking about that goal. Yeah. But no, I mean, it's just the connectivity that we've seen from this top line. And, they were quiet, which I thought actually was a good thing because I thought that the Jets were learning to rely on lines that weren't Scheifele, Vilardi, and Connor to score and produce. And we saw that. And it wasn't just because of Cole Perfetti getting a hat trick, Ezzy, but just you want to see other guys being able to contribute and not just be reliant on the top line. Because if and when they do go cold, luckily for the Jets, it was only for a game or two, but when they are quiet, you need to know that other lines are going to step up. But the expectation is that those are going to be your big dogs. Those are going to be your workhorses. Those are the guys who are going to be your top line for a reason, who get the most minutes for a reason. And there's another example of them just showing how well they know each other with Scheifele and Connor, distributing the puck back and forth. And then Scheifele, it's not like it was a beautiful goal or anything like that. He just put it in far side and makes it a 2-1 game. And that's his. He and Kyle Connor have the most game-winning goals. I don't know how many. I want to say it's like 57 maybe game-winning goals. And I will say as an aside, as I was looking at that, so I should probably know. I think one of them has 58, one has 54. I'll look that up while Drew gets into the next one. But I will say, somewhat shockingly, who has 20 game-winning goals? Because he doesn't have a lot of goals in general, but he's got 20 game winners.
I'm going to say Neil Pionk.
No. I don't know how many he's got, but he's not the player I'm thinking of.
Is it the current Winnipeg Jets player?
Current Winnipeg Jets player.
Mason Appleton.
No. Plays on his line, though. He's not playing.
Adam Lowry.
Yeah. Adam Lowry has 20 game-winning goals. Doesn't have a lot of goals, but he's got 20. I was impressed.
Drew,
by
Drew, I cleaned up the garbage there because you set me up after you said Appleton, and then Dave said it was on his line. So obviously that was
there wasn't too many guesses left for Ezzy at that point. But,
by process of elimination, you're able to figure that one out there, Big Daddy. Good job on that front. 2-1 for the Jets at that point, and for I think everybody expected that it was going to end 2-1, especially how the final seconds of that second.
By the way, sorry, Drew. Connor had 58. I was right, and Scheifele has 54, so I was right about that. But now he's got 55. Matches his number.
There you go. It's kismet, or it's numerology or something along those lines. Seemed like the second period was going to end with the Winnipeg Jets having that 1-goal lead, but then in the blink of an eye and one little brain cramp and one great effort from David Gustafsson, the Jets took a 3-1 lead. Real demoralizing goal for the Montreal Canadiens, but it's also our Seagrams shot of the game.
The Seagrams shot of the game.
Big thanks to our friends at Seagrams for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. It really, I mean, look, there wasn't a play here except for David Gustafsson's hard work. That's all it is. And Kyle Connor, to his credit, his commitment to following through on this play. I mean, Connor gets over center and is content to just dump it deep into the Habs zone because there was seconds left in the period. This did not appear as though it was going to be a scoring opportunity. Instead, David Gustafsson, the Gus Bus, he starts, he's out of control like Speed and Sandra Bullock and who was that? Keanu Reeves? Was he? No. Yeah,
Dennis
Keanu
Hopper.
Reeves. And he goes hard after the loose puck behind the Habs net. He beats Caden Gooley to the puck. He gets it out in front to Kyle Connor, where Christian Dvorak and Michael Pezzetta have just decided to take absolutely nobody instead. And, full marks to Connor for his shot. But how about that effort by David Gustafsson? You know that the entire locker room, I haven't seen the video come out from the Jets yet, but I bet you that he gets
he's getting that jacket. Drew.
Yeah, he's getting that jacket that they give out for that great effort at the end of the end of the second period, giving the Jets the 3-1 lead with only 2 seconds to go. Just a testament to the hard work and the commitment. And here you go. Take a shot, folks, if you're drinking. The attention to detail that winning teams demonstrate. David Gustafsson showing it off in spades. Kyle Connor, his 29th. 3-1. A great play by Gustafsson, and I bet you a learning opportunity that Martin St. Louis is going to demonstrate to his Montreal Canadiens team when they do film review tomorrow, Ezzy.
Okay, but first, before we get into that goal, you mentioned Speed earlier. It was Sandra Bullock, Keanu Reeves, Dennis Hopper. That was, shout out to my buddy Adam Florence, who lives in Montreal now. That was the first movie. It was, remember the ratings used to be PA 15 or something?
Yeah.
Like you had to be 15. I remember when that movie came out. It must have been around 1993 or 94, because I think, or 95, whatever. I was like 13. So anyways, I just wanted to get that in there. That was the first movie. You guys must have snuck into a movie back in your day. That was the first movie I snuck into that you had to be 15.
I think it was Bram Stoker's Dracula that I tried to at the Garrick Theater, and I went with one of my buddies.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure I was too afraid of getting caught. I don't think I ever snuck into anything or did anything wrong in my entire life.
I remember going to see the Mothman Prophecies with Drew back in the day, and that turned out to be a very creepy movie. Do you remember going to see that movie with me?
I've never heard of that movie. I don't think I've ever seen a movie with you before. As far as I'm concerned, you've just made up this entire story.
You were like 18
Mothman Prophecies.
We were like 18 or 19. I remember you had passes to go see the Mothman Prophecies.
I know what he's talking about, folks.
I remember
went
it
with somebody else. It wasn't me. I don't know what the Mothman Prophecies are.
How would I ever
Sounds
make
scary.
up? How would I make up, like, you of all the movies to make up that we went to go see? Why would I make up that movie? Anyways, Drew's for sure googling the Mothman Prophecies.
Absolutely, I'm googling the Mothman.
I'm pretty sure it was a horror movie, wasn't it?
Or it was called, maybe I'm thinking of The Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher. I don't know.
Mothman Prophecies was a movie in 2002 starring Richard Gere and Laura Linney, along with Will Patton, Deborah Messing, Alan Bates. It's a supernatural horror mystery film
Frosty
directed
says it's
by
about
Mark Pellington.
Oh, Mark Pellington.
Yeah, everyone knows Mark Pellington. He's
We
a
would have been
household name.
19 or 20 back then, so the timeline checks out. But anyways, regardless, yes. Look, we
As
all
Peter
play,
Gary says, hockey guys, let's go. Come on.
yeah, getting back to hockey.
Let's go.
Here, but
Chop, chop.
we still have to get in our pop culture references,
That's
right?
true.
But all of us played hockey, guys, and what do hockey coaches always say, regardless of what level you play at? They say, play to the whistle.
Right.
That's what the Gus Bus did here. He played to the whistle, and Drew's absolutely right. It's Caden Gooley who goes in, and he just goes in soft.
Yeah.
And Gus Bus just wants that puck more than Gooley here. It's Lane Hudson who's the other defenseman, but it's Caden Gooley who it's his puck to go after. And it's also just a nice pass. Like it's not only does he get the puck, but he puts it right on Connor's stick, and it's a nice shot. So obviously, guys, you love to see it. We talked about Gustafsson earlier. He's been a regular healthy scratch, not just this year, last year as well. And you just love to see that, right? Like if Adam Lowry's in the lineup, maybe Gustafsson is your 13th forward, right, Dave? So you just love to see a guy, because let's be honest here. We've always known that he's responsible defensively, but now he's starting to chip in and contribute offensively. So I just love to see it. You just know, like Drew said, he most likely got the jacket. I just checked the Jets' social media account. I didn't see that, but regardless, you just know that the players in that dressing room are just loving that Gustafsson is contributing on the score sheet.
Well, remember this: it's a 2-1 game. Like, it's not like the Jets were cruising and like, okay, that's a good play, but it really doesn't have an impact on the game. They go into that third period up 3-1 because of it. Because you're right, Drew, and as it was cruise control. I mean, even Kyle Connor, when he dumped the puck in, he looked up at the clock. And then he realized, well, wait a second, this is pretty soft coverage. I'm going to the front of the net. I mean, you can't stop a guy who's that good a goal scorer when he doesn't need a lot of time and space, right, Ezzy, to fire it into the back of the net. So, I mean, all of it works out, right? The fact that David Gustafsson doesn't stop his legs, doesn't stop moving, and makes, like Drew said, a hell of a good pass right onto the stick of Kyle Connor, because there isn't a lot of time, whether it was 0.5 or 1.5 as they put back on the clock. And with the goal, Kyle Connor now up to 29 on the season. So he is tied for second most in the NHL with Mark Scheifele, and tied for the team lead with Mark Scheifele with 29 goals. So just a really good effort. And you send the team into the third period, with a good feeling, because now, I mean, you felt better anyways, based on how you played in that second period, outshooting them 13-3. But having a 3-1 lead, obviously, is I'm not saying you're in cruise control, because Montreal had some chances to make it a closer game, which I'm sure we'll get into. But at the end of the day, the Jets were able to, get it done.
It's just a huge goal. It's just it just goes to show you what we've been talking about all year. The Jets are just at another level when it comes to their buy-in. I mean, that's just all that is. That's just a buy-in goal, because if Connor dumps it in and everybody sort of peels off towards the bench, expecting the horn to blow, nobody really faults them. Nobody's saying, soft play by the Jets, not going after it. Instead, Gustafsson, he's only got one motor, and that's all in. And then Kyle Connor, to his credit, he sees the opportunity, and he jumps at it just as well. Very
play to the whistle, never stop playing. And Gustafsson, again, that's just like, it's not going to necessarily show up on the highlight reels for greatest goals of the season. No. But that's why you play till the whistle and you keep going. And the Jets caught the Habs sleeping a little bit, and that goal was an absolute killer, because we know most of the time, guys, teams don't score more than 2 goals on Connor Hellebuck. So again, that's why I called it the backbreaker. That's what that goal was.
Yeah, well said. Exactly right. 3-1 for the Jets after 40 minutes. They keep, Montreal controls the third period, but most of it is to the outside. They did have their chances. They did have their opportunities. They hit a crossbar. Josh Anderson.
It was Lane Hudson who hit the crossbar.
Hudson who hit the crossbar. If Josh Anderson's able to tuck that backhand, in on the breakaway. By the way, Josh Anderson's had a really tough year for Montreal.
Fourth line, right?
Yeah, well, this is a guy who's always been, he's been on the trade block for 5 years, yet he's still somehow a member of the Montreal Canadiens, because because the Jets are a team he's had success against also previously. And, if he's able to tuck this one in, or if Lane Hudson doesn't hit crossbar, it's back to being a 1-goal game instead.
I would take Josh Anderson on my team. I know he's not necessarily worth his contract, Drew, but like for a bottom 6 guy, I think it would be a good pickup for a team if the Habs end up moving him.
Yeah, I mean, and it's
like Drew said, they've been reported to be moving him along with David Savard now for 3 years,
something like that.
Is Trevor Seagrams still going to Montreal?
Ehlers in the offseason. That's the buzz.
Yeah,
That's what all the Montreal fans, so they can reunite him and Laine. Laine, by the way, invisible tonight by and large, especially with no power play.
No penalties. I mean,
no penalties. Exactly.
Good.
Well, you know what?
By Winnipeg.
I just wanted to mention this. I was texting. Shout out to my buddy Dustin, who I work with at Hockey Manitoba. He's a big Habs fan, and I was texting him, and that line. So it's Kirby Dach centering that line with Laine and Newhook. There's just something about that line that doesn't work. Like, I don't know if it's just its lack of speed or what it is. Kirby Dach has had a lot of injuries. Yeah. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's still feeling that hit from Morgan Barron, like we talked about earlier.
Be feeling that for 3 weeks, though.
Oh, man. But
that was a great shift by Morgan Barron, by the way. It wasn't just the hit, as you're right. The hit was fantastic, but Morgan Barron, look, he had that little chip play where he chipped the puck to himself, retrieved it, set himself up for a chance. Like I said, it's not always the stuff that shows up on the score sheet that shows the impact. And that's something that Cole Perfetti talked about. And it was something that Davis Payne, when we spoke to him, was that yesterday before the team left, they had the optional. That was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday,
very optional.
Very optional. Yeah. 5 guys on the ice, but including the goaltenders. But and the 2 assistant coaches, I should say. But Davis Payne talked about the impact guys can have even when they're not showing up on a score sheet. And everybody knows that. But like I said, Cole Perfetti spent quite a bit of time talking about it, and then ironically had 3 goals and had his best game of his pro career. And like I said, Morgan Barron, one of the things that we were on him for was you needed to see more from him. And that wasn't just goals. I mean, you wanted, of course, goals was going to be important, but just more from, these types of efforts. And tonight's game was one of those where he doesn't show up on the score sheet but you can see that he had an impact on the game.
Yeah, I made a couple notes after the Jets' first power play, which they didn't score on. I made a note that the fourth line was really good. Barron had a scoring chance. So I agree with you. And, that goes back to what we've talked about with whether it's Vlad Nemesnikov out of the lineup, whether it's Nikolai Ehlers out of the lineup, whether it's Adam Lowry out of the lineup. The Jets have guys that can move up or move down and play well, right? There's different combinations that work, right? Who expected Lowry, Ehlers, Iafallo to actually impact the second line center debate, right? We still all agree, and most Jets fans, I think, would agree that the Jets need a second line center, but Lowry, Ehlers, and Iafallo worked, and Rasmus Kupari is working. Yeah. And he's played well, right? So if a guy's playing well
on the faceoffs, right?
Exactly. And if a guy's playing well on the fourth line, Dave, don't be surprised if he gets moved up to the third line and he plays well. I mean, it's not that complicated.
It's really not. Jets wrap up the goal scoring with the empty netter. No need to delve deep into it. Kupari, his 4th of the year, assist to Ehlers and Cole Perfetti. So the love was being shared all throughout the Winnipeg Jets lineup tonight. They start the 3-game road trip with a tidy 4-1 victory in Montreal. They head to Boston next on Thursday. And then, of course, the main event comes Saturday night. The Jets and the Capitals, the top 2 teams in the NHL, will do battle in what ought to be a very entertaining contest come on Saturday night. But before that, of course, the Jets are going to look for a little bit of revenge against Trent Frederick and the Bruins on Thursday. A Bruins team that I should point out will likely be more than a little ornery, as they got absolutely pasted by the Buffalo Sabres 7-2 tonight in Buffalo. So a very poor performance by the Bruins. It will be interesting to see what their response is on Thursday night, the Jets and the Bruins, an 8:40 or so post-game show. So back here, be sure to put that into your calendars or set the notification bell, ring the notification bell to join us then on Thursday night.
7-2, and the Sabres are in last place. That hurts.
That's not very impressive by any stretch of any imagination. Before then, of course, much more to come on the Illegal Curve post-game show. So stay with us. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg. It's brought to you by Play Now. More on the Jets' victory over the Montreal Canadiens after these commercial messages.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling sites instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
so much of your money.
Now, you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
This January at Boston Pizza, every day is Pasta Tuesday. That means BP's famous pastas start at just $11.99 every single day. Create your own or go gourmet for just a few bucks more. Come on in for Pasta Tuesday pricing any day. Only this January at Boston Pizza.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg with you on this here Tuesday night. Jets go into Montreal, take a 4-1 victory over the Habs. Important to get this road trip off to a good start, and that's exactly what the Winnipeg Jets did. 4 games to go now before the all-important Four Nations Cup break. The Jets 34-14. Hang on, I guess that should be 35, right?
No, 34, I think.
Did I get it right? Okay, maybe I haven't pressed refresh. No, 35-14-3. 10-point lead now.
I guess I should have read my own post-game recap, Ezzy. 35-14-3.
Yeah, 35-14-3. 10-point lead currently, as of right now, over the second place Dallas Stars.
Who are losing to Vegas.
Yeah. They're down to Vegas 2-1 late in the first period. So the Winnipeg Jets continue to just roll along. You know, whatever sort of is thrown their way, they're unfazed by it, as you saw tonight in Montreal. And just another sign of a good team doing what a good team does, which is win on the road against an opponent that might be an upstart, but isn't quite at the same level as the Winnipeg Jets. As it
Habs, no, absolutely not. They're not at the same level, but the Habs are one of the best stories in the league this year, I would say. I would throw the Blue Jackets in there as well.
Blue Jackets,
Ottawa obviously holding down third. You're absolutely right, Drew. Like when the Bruins were a top team, that division looked a lot scarier. Now that division, I mean, the Metro, it's not even close between the Metro and the Atlantic right now. The Metro is a far better division, and that's with the New York Rangers struggling this year, right? But obviously with the Hurricanes and the Capitals and the Devils, like the Stanley Cup champion could easily come out of that Metro division, right? But like we're used to the Jets winning this year, guys, but how many people thought that we would be sitting here at the end of January and the Jets would be 10 points up on the second place Dallas Stars? As Dave mentioned, Dallas is losing tonight, so they're going to remain 10 points back of the Jets. Like, just shows you how dominant they've been, even though there was, a bit of a rough patch there in late November, early to mid-December. The Jets just keep winning 4 in a row. And really, it's not really a question of if the Jets, obviously the Jets could fall and not win the division. But I think the question now is more so, who's going to win the West? Is it going to be the Jets? Is it going to be the Oilers? I think the Golden Knights are in that conversation. But really, guys, if you can end up finishing first in the West and you play that second wild card team, which is right now Calgary, and I believe Colorado was the first wild card team, if I'm not mistaken.
Colorado lost, by the way, to the Islanders tonight.
Right. So that's a big difference, right, Dave? Like playing Colorado versus playing Calgary. So that's why, these wins here are important. You want to keep winning, and you want to still, keep atop the West, not just atop the Central.
And as it's amazing, of course, because as you said, we do detail every single one of these with everyone in the chat. We always appreciate everybody joining us. And when the Jets went on that bit of a scuffle, when they'd win, one and lose a couple or whatever it was, every person, here comes the January swoon. Here comes the January swoon. Well, guess what, folks? We are at the end of January, 28th day of January to be precise. And the Jets are not swooning. They're swooping because they have won now 4 straight in a row. Yeah, they're doing something right. But the fact of the matter is, without their captain, they've managed to continue to cruise. They've seen that, that next man up mentality, as cliche as that expression is, seems to be working. Guys have stepped up in the absence of Adam Lowry. And you've got Rasmus Kupari getting some more ice time. And we always say that the O word, the opportunity word. And when there is an opportunity, you need to take advantage of it. And guys like David Gustafsson, Morgan Barron, we're mentioning them more and more, Rasmus Kupari. And it's because of the good things they're doing in these hockey games. So again, they're never going to be to the same level of importance as the Mark Scheifeles and the Gabriel Velardis and the Nikolai Ehlers. But at the end, and Kyle Connor, of course, but at the same time, these are all parts of the vehicle. They're all cogs in the wheel, and they all make it go forward. So it's significant. And the fact is that the Jets team is continuing to push forward and to push to the top. And whether they finish atop the league at the end of the season, I agree with that. What's most critically important is to be in that top spot atop the Western Conference.
Yeah, and that's obviously the goal for the Winnipeg Jets. 4 games to go before the break. They headed to Boston to face the Bruins on Thursday night, Saturday against the Capitals, home on Tuesday to face the new-look Carolina Hurricanes, and then they wrap it all up a week from Friday against the New York Islanders before then everyone goes away for that 2-week period of time, and the Four Nations Cup begins to take center stage.
I'm not going anywhere, Drew. I'm staying right here in Winnipeg.
We know. I meant the players. You can stay there.
You know who's going somewhere though, Drew?
Who's going somewhere?
Thomas Milich. He's going to Norfolk, West Virginia. Not West Virginia.
Who's coming to Manitoba?
Dominic DiVincentis. Although he's not going to Manitoba, he's going to Illinois.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Minute Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
My hands were down here. I never touched the Minute Moose Minute. That's always an Ezzy thing. I'll be quick. The Moose, of course, head out on the road. Now, the big question mark is, will 2022 second rounder Elias Salamonson, Ezzy, play?
Because he's been out for a while now.
He's been out for a while. December 6th is when he went out with that upper body injury, but he has been out for some time. And he is supposed to represent Manitoba at the AHL All-Star game in Palm Springs in like 10 days. And I'm not sure how he's going to do that if he's not able to play the next 3 games the Moose play. They play Chicago, Milwaukee, and then Chicago again. So we will see if Elias Salamonson, I wasn't able to make it to skate yesterday because I was at downtown. I was hoping the Jets would practice at Hockey for All Center, and then I could have covered both. But I had to make a choice, and I know the people would wanted me to be at the Jets. Well, maybe at the Moose, but who knows? Anyways, so I didn't see if he was practicing in a regular jersey. We'll find out tomorrow when the Jets take on the Wolves in Chicago. The Moose, Ezzy, sorry, I said the Jets. I meant the Moose. When the Moose take on the Wolves. And one of the things that the Moose are going to have to try and do, and when they're hoping with this goalie swap, I would imagine, is last year on January 27th, the Moose were 12-23-1, last in the AHL, and then they went on a run and made the playoffs. This Moose team, 11-23-1, and in dire circumstance, they're 18 points back of Chicago. They're a little closer to Iowa, who they face at home in a couple of weeks, but they need to get things turned around. They're hoping that recalling Dominic DiVincentis, the 2022 7th rounder, who's 15-5 in Norfolk in his first season as a pro. He also had 5 games with the Moose earlier in the season. They're hoping that he'll be a little bit of a boost. And Thomas Milic, who they still have faith in, he's going to get a chance to reset in Norfolk, play some games, play some big minutes, and maybe a little less pressure down in the ECHL to kind of regain his form. But to be clear, the Moose's current standings is not because of the way Thomas Milic is playing. This is I'm big on focusing on the collective team. This is the team not playing particularly well, not just because the goaltending hasn't been good.
Yeah, the team can't collectively score, so it doesn't matter who your goaltender is.
When you have the least amount of goals in the AHL, it's not your goalie's fault.
It is not. But there you go, Dave M, with a little bit of an update on the Moose and the Admirals goaltending situation. Always appreciate Dave M keeping tabs on everything happening at the NHL, AHL, ECHL, WHL, OHL,
check what happened with the prospects today. Hold on.
WCHA. Right, no, stop it. You'll follow Dave on Twitter. You can get your latest prospect highlights and things of that nature.
No games in the OHL. You guys are lucky.
There you go. Big thank you to all of you for joining us tonight on the Illegal Curve post-game show. Big thank you to our sponsors, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club. Play Now, they're the title sponsor. Holt Dental, Boston Pizza, City Place, and of course, our friends at Seagrams support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve hockey. Jets win 4-1. Post-game coverage in its entirety on illegalcurve.com. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends, tell your family the best place to be after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. And again, on Saturday mornings is the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. For Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until Thursday at around 8:45 p.m., we wish you good night and good luck. And thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.